All right, welcome back to episode 3 of the South African podcast. Um, Back with the crew again. We're gonna wrap things up pretty much. So this will be kind of the final part 3, and we just discussed basically what you guys did over there for work wise, doing the mural, doing building the houses and such. And I got basically from there on the departure. What was it like leaving Africa? I'm sure it was kind of heavy hearted, probably a little bit. But Zach, just describe the leaving day. What was that kind of like for you?
It was pretty sad because when you go, you just want to stay there.
Mhm.
Um, it was kind of like the first time I went where even though I didn't want to go, at the same time, I wanted to kind of like step away just to process everything that I had experienced and everything that had happened and just like step away to get like a day of rest, I guess, because
Mhm.
even though you have downtime there, some downtime, it's kind of hard to really rest because your mind is just buzzing with all the different things that are going on, all the different things that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Um so it was sad but also kind of I guess needed to kind of step away just to process everything. Um but yeah,
Taylor? No, you're
after
good.
like a day of rest, I was like ready to go back.
Yeah, yeah. Tyler, how about you?
I was ready to go back before we left. I think for me, um, you're probably going to get about the same thing from all of us. I don't think any of us really wanted to leave.
Right.
Um, just something about when you go somewhere and you're doing things, whether it's in church or for people.
Hmm.
When you're sent somewhere, you don't want to not be sent somewhere.
For sure.
And coming back from being sent, you're not that your work to do is any less when you're not being sent somewhere,
Yeah.
but there's just something about going somewhere and being there and experiencing that and all that it is. You don't want to walk away from it.
Yeah.
It's like we were there for 10 days, and that's a lot to walk away from
Yeah.
after spending 10 days somewhere. Uh, Definitely looking forward to going back, though. Probably not going to want to leave then either.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's and something on the way there. I was thinking about the trip, and then on the way home, I was thinking about the trip, but
Mhm.
in a different way. So I think because on the way there we had a short flight, then a long flight, but on the way back we have a long flight and then a short flight. So I think getting on the plane and leaving, I had that whole what was the second flight? It was longer, wasn't it? 14 and a half
It was
or
supposed to be
15?
16, but dropped to
to
like
15.
So 15?
I think it was close to
So
it.
15
15.
hours I had with nothing other to think about than what we just done for the last 10 days. It's I mean when you're that's something I enjoy about hunting, I think, is just being able to sit down and think about stuff,
Mhm.
not have to worry about anything. So, but I don't sit and hunt for 15 hours. So I feel like when you get that much time to just sit and think about stuff, it's yeah, you really think about a lot.
Mhm. Charlotte, how was it for you?
As far as leaving goes, it felt like a natural stopping point. Like
Mhm.
we had completed what we set out to complete, and then we're able to go home, rest, and it feels like recalibrate for what we're doing next. You know what I'm saying? Um, Leaving the people, I feel like, was probably the hardest aspect of it, just because you even in that short amount of time we had to speak with them, we care for them, like we said it in the Sunday service we ministered in, their covenant, their family, you know what I'm saying? So you get to see them for such a short time and then you have to leave them again.
Yeah.
So that it was a little sad, but it, like I said, it felt like a natural stopping point to everything.
Yeah. Kelby?
Uh, Leaving South Africa was like they're talking about. it's a bittersweet moment of you're going back home, or what you call home. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
But then there's a part of you that doesn't actually leave South Africa. So, though we're coming back home, there's a part of you that is always connected in this sense of covenant that
Yeah.
Charla was talking about.
Mhm.
We weren't going there to meet people that we have nothing in common with.
Yeah.
So, like, the people we were around the most was Pastor Brian and Pastor Glenda, and the people there at the Dream Center. We know that they're all in covenant together.
Yeah.
We know that Pastor Brian is in covenant with Apostle Dave. And so there's this connection of, because he's in covenant with him, he's in covenant with us.
Yeah.
And so we realize that we're not just leaving these people that we barely know, but we're leaving family members.
Mhm.
And so you could look at it of, well, you didn't grow up around them. You haven't known them for very long. But the crazy thing with the kingdom is it's not bound by time.
Yeah.
So just, even though we were there for 5 days around them, in those 5 days, so much connection and relationship was grown and fostered in those 5 days,
Mhm.
that when you go to leave, it's not like you're just leaving someone you met 5 days ago.
Yeah.
You're leaving someone that you've now spent 5 days, and because we were spending so much time with them, like, for me personally, again, I was still sick most of the trip.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just now starting to get over my cough, and we've been back for like what, 2 weeks now? A week?
Week and a half. Yeah.
Oh, that's right, a week. And so, like, I was sick, so I'm not feeling the greatest.
Yeah.
So they're seeing me not feeling the greatest, and though they don't know me, they know, hey, he's not feeling that great. And so, like, every day they're asking me, how are you doing? Are you tired? Are you okay? Do you
Yeah.
want a glass of water? Do you want some tea? Something like that. And so these people that don't really know me, wanting to step in and help any way they can. And so it creates this bond pretty much almost instantaneously. So when you're leaving someone, I'm not just leaving a group of ladies that we've met there in Egoli that work at the Dream Center.
Yeah.
I'm leaving folks that have quite literally fed us, taken care of us, been praying for us, speaking over us every time we're there in the morning, and every time we're there during lunch. And so it's like you're like a little support system, so to speak, while you're away from home. It's almost like this sense of security there, because it's covenant, it's relational,
Yeah. Part of the kingdom.
it's part of the kingdom. So they're not just doing this out of the kindness of their heart, they're doing this out of covenant,
Mm-hmm.
because they have an understanding.
Yep.
And so they're doing this, you realize it, and so it's not just you're leaving people that you just met or that you've been around for 5 days. You're leaving folks that you're leaving part of your heart with,
Mhm.
because now you found we have this crazy saying in the States of home is where the heart is.
Yeah.
So then when you leave a piece of your heart somewhere, you leave a piece of home.
Mhm.
And so you can have homes in multiple countries.
Mhm.
It's where you choose to leave your heart,
Yeah.
or a piece of your heart.
Yeah.
And so it sounds crazy because we just went and visited for 10 days, but I knew this before going on the trip, that this was not just, South Africa is not just a place I want to visit. South Africa is another home to me.
Yeah.
And not that I'm saying, ooh, I'm going to impose my way and I'm going to make it home.
Yeah.
But there's something about South Africa that I already knew was a second home.
Mhm.
It was just confirmed when we actually went. And like Tyler was saying, they're so receptive.
Yeah.
So they welcome you with open arms. So then when we're leaving, for me personally, it's like leaving a second home.
Yeah.
I know I'm going home, but I'm leaving another home.
Yeah.
And so it's like this back and forth of, yeah, it's nice to be going and sleeping in your own bed,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's costing you leaving these family members you just met. It's like having long lost family members.
Mhm.
And then you're like, ooh, I should go visit them. And then you go spend a week with them.
Yeah.
And you're starting to get to know them. You know, you're having really good times. They're there with you in some rough times. And then all of a sudden it's like, now you got to go home. And you have this back and forth inside of yourself of, I just met home.
Mm.
But at the same time, it's like, but this isn't where I live.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so leaving South Africa is completely different than going.
Yeah.
Leaving South Africa, going to South Africa, like I was excited, overjoyed,
Hmm.
anticipating. Leaving South Africa, I was saddened because we're leaving.
Yeah.
At the same time, there is a sense of excitement of going back and sharing with people that have not went on this trip about the trip.
Mhm.
And so, because I know for me and Tyler personally, it was almost every Sunday for like a month leading up, every Sunday and Wednesday for like a month leading up to the trip. There was like at least a handful of the people in our church that would come up to us after service and be like, man, we're looking forward to when y'all get back. We can't wait to hear everything about the trip. And like, we knew there was anticipation
Mhm.
for us to come back and share.
Yeah.
So like there's this anticipation of us getting to share what we've experienced. And at
Mhm.
the same time, there's this sadness of that means you have to leave.
Yeah.
And so it was very interesting. Like Tyler was saying, the ride back, just sitting there thinking about it, starting to process some of the stuff that we witnessed,
Yep.
some of the stuff that we experienced,
Yep.
some of the stuff that we were a part of. It was crazy thinking about it because like a lot of times when you go on trips like this, people just look at the aspect of what you're going to do ministry wise.
Yeah.
What are you doing while you're there? And they don't think about the other side of ministry of what are you receiving?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because ministry is not about releasing. Ministry is a relational thing. There's a give and a take.
Yeah.
You give something and you receive something.
Mhm.
And so sitting and reflecting on what we received was a very easy way to ease myself back into, okay, I'm going back to the States. I'm not living in South Africa. I live in the States. And then when we get back, we have to get back to our life in the States.
Yeah.
Which is a conversation that we had with JJ about, what do you do when you leave? Do you go back to your life and act like this didn't happen?
Hmm.
Or do you carry it with you? And so that was, for me, coming back. And like me and Tyler, we came back and we were hosting someone at the house for like a week.
Yeah.
And so like you're not even able to sit and process things because you're hosting someone. Huh? He made it there before we made it back from our trip. Yeah. And so we planned this before we went on this trip, and we're not going to say, "Oh no, we just came back from South Africa. We're not able to do that anymore. Don't come up." No. We're still going to let him come up and hang out with us. And so in that, it was a little bit of a delay. We still wasn't able to just sit and reflect and actually process.
Yeah.
Which, in a sense, is a good thing because it gives you a little bit more of a buffer time of realizing I don't want to say coming back to reality because that was a reality as well.
Right.
But readjusting to the way we live.
Mhm.
And so it was a nice moment to able to readjust into the way that we live here in America. So that now, starting tomorrow, I'm going to be riding in a truck for like an hour just to go do some measurements.
Mhm.
And I've got an hour to sit and just process.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I was planning on doing is when going back to work, the long commutes, sitting and just processing this stuff.
Yep.
And actually being able to sit and start writing some of this stuff out.
Mhm.
But
So to dive more into a more personal kind of questions, I think JJ probably would like this question. Dive into more of a personal experience. What did you learn about yourself in Africa? So Zach, we'll start with you. What was something you learned about yourself that maybe you didn't know, or maybe you just was magnified a little bit more about yourself?
One thing that I was specifically supposed to do over there was teach piano to a class. So while Charlo was doing the dramas, I was supposed to be teaching piano. I had no real idea what it was going to look like, uh, what the kids were going to be, if it was going to be old or adults or kids or who I was going to be teaching. But I've been asked by people in the past to teach piano or teach music before, and I've always went to no, I can't teach because I'm not a good teacher,
Yeah.
or I can't teach piano. Like I'm good at I can play it, but I can't teach piano because I'm not good at it. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But doing this class, um, I learned that I actually really like teaching piano and teaching music, and
Really.
it was just cool to go and show them how it works and how cool piano can be if you know how to play, and see them excited
Mhm.
to learn about it, and see them not just be excited to learn about it, but actually grab a hold of something. So
Yeah.
if I was teaching them, it wasn't just me speaking and it's just going in one ear and out the other. They're actually grabbing a hold of it and getting excited about it. So that was really cool to see. And so if I learned anything about myself is that I can teach piano, I guess, and it's actually really cool and I really enjoyed that.
Mhm. Tyler.
It's a good question. I don't know. I think I learn stuff about myself all the time, not just on a trip, but in general.
For sure.
I would have to say probably reinforced some things that I already knew, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or things that I've been working towards.
Yeah.
I know most of the people, especially around here, most of the people that know me know there's a lot of things that I do uh, in a disciplinary way.
Mm.
So, like, there's just some things I don't do at all, and then there's some things I do a certain way.
Yep.
Um, just for myself, because I mean, it's easy to say no to something if you always say no to something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you come up against something that's hard to say yes to, it's easy to just say no.
Yeah.
But if you I know for me, if I don't even give myself the option to say no to stuff, like things that would be an inconvenience to a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just don't even give myself an option
Yeah.
of. Um, and so the whole point is so that if I'm ever faced with something that I don't need to say no to, that I won't say no because I'm just used to always just saying yes
Mhm.
or just going with it.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely, I mean, I already knew that I'd done stuff like that and I knew that it would be beneficial in
Mhm.
situations like some of the ones that we encountered there, but it's never really tested here
Yeah.
like it was there.
Yeah.
So, like the whole hot water thing,
Mhm.
and like TV, just all kinds of stuff. They don't even have that there.
Yeah.
At all,
Yeah.
which is part of the reason that I'm the way that I am about it.
Mhm.
But that and just stuff that I'll just say no to, even though it would be fun or I would enjoy it.
Mhm.
Just say no anyways.
Yeah.
But not saying, not getting in the position to say no to stuff because it's easy.
Yeah.
Some things are hard to say no to,
Yeah, for sure.
like things that we think are fun or enjoyable or convenient.
Yep.
Those are the things that it's easy to say yes to.
Mhm.
But the things that are hard to say yes to are hard or easy to say no to.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of times in Africa, like especially eating stuff and drinking stuff. There was a lot of stuff that I really didn't want to try. I don't drink soft drinks here
Yeah.
because they make me sick.
Mhm.
Not They didn't used to,
Mhm.
but when I quit drinking them for so long, now if I try to drink them, I'll get sick
Yeah.
on my stomach. Not anything like crazy. I just don't feel good.
Yep.
And it's just because I don't drink them, not any condition or anything.
Mhm.
I just made the decision to not drink them because they're not really good for me.
Mhm.
And it's just another way of like keeping
Discipline.
myself, holding myself to a standard. And I'm not saying nobody should ever do something like that, or
Yeah.
that you shouldn't use hot water,
Yeah.
or have all these nice things, or have a convenient life. You shouldn't live in inconvenience. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if you'll accept just a little bit of inconvenience
Mhm.
in your day to day life, when you're faced with something that you don't want to do, you're more likely to just accept it and say yes and do it anyway.
Yeah.
So like I don't eat a lot of sweet food. I've just never really been a guy that eats. I don't really like cakes and pies and stuff like that.
Yep.
And that's not a decision. That's just me. I don't really. There's only a few like desserts that I'll actually eat, but they've got these things over there, and they're wanting us to try like donuts. I don't really eat a lot of donuts.
Yeah.
And especially ones that's got like chocolate and sprinkles and all that stuff. But they come out there with a box, and they don't really. They probably would take no for an answer if you told them just no, but they're gonna keep insisting.
They're not asking. They're
They're
like, here, take a
gonna-
donut.
Yeah, they're gonna keep insisting. But I mean, if you just stood up about it and was like, no, I don't want that, they would. But then, what's the cost of that?
Yeah.
You're gonna hurt somebody's feelings. So even
Yeah.
though, like, I don't usually eat stuff like that, just because I don't really. It's not that I don't like it. I
No.
kind of don't.
Yeah.
It's just not stuff that I usually eat. And then like Cook Sisters, they've got stuff like that over there, and they were like, try this, get another one, and I'm like, man, it's kind of like a donut but with syrup,
Ooh.
sort of.
That sounds amazing.
It is amazing.
They're good. It's just not usually something that I would eat.
Yeah.
And so for me, if it's not something I'd usually eat, usually I would just be like, nah, it's okay. I don't want that. But you don't, when you get over there, you don't tell people no. So one of the other things was like, I don't drink soft drinks here.
Yeah.
And so they were offered to us there. And fortunately, like for lunch and stuff, they had other drinks that I could just drink. But they said, like we went to Pastor Raymond's house.
Mhm.
And so he poured everybody drinks and brought them in there. And one's like Stony, which is kind of like ginger ale, but a little bit different.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's intense.
Spicy.
yeah,
Yes.
for sure. And so usually I would be like, no, that's okay. I don't drink drinks. I don't even want to try it. But I wasn't going to tell him, no, he's already poured it and
Yeah.
brought it in there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I got it, and I was like, oh man, this is carbonated. I'm going to get sick. But I didn't. It didn't make me sick on my stomach or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
And it was actually pretty good. I kind of liked it. But then there was like this cream soda, and their cream soda is green. Like it looks radioactive. It's funny looking. Usually I wouldn't try that, but they were like, you got to try it. You got to try it. And so I was like, whatever, man. And so I tried it. I think just experiencing that stuff, because I don't experience it a lot here. There's not a lot of things like that that I would usually say no to.
Yeah.
That I'm given the opportunity to say yes to. Because here, somebody's like, do you want a drink? And I'll be like, no, I don't drink drinks, like water, juice, tea, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And they don't have tea there. So like sweet tea,
There you
like
go.
we have. It's hot tea. So their tea's kind of like coffee, sort
Yeah.
of. So like, there's nowhere to get sweet tea. So over there, it was just water. I drank a lot of water in Africa, and then I ended up making some sweet tea.
No
Like,
way.
where we lived, we acquired the necessities for sweet tea, and the first one turned out all right, and then the second time we didn't have a jug,
Mm.
so I made it in a pitcher, and I just reduced how much I made, and it was so bitter, it turned out terrible. But then like the wrong sugar, it just turned out bad. But then like the third time, that one wasn't too bad. It turned out pretty good. But yeah, I think for me, something that I seen about myself was after, because like I've been doing this stuff for years.
Yep.
Leading up to this, and the whole goal was just to never be inconvenienced in that position.
Mhm.
Like if I go somewhere, because that's what I'm called to do,
Yep.
not just Africa but everywhere.
Yeah.
And I know that there's places in the world where I'm going to encounter stuff like that,
Mhm.
and I don't ever want to insult anyone or be inconvenienced by it, because who am I to be inconvenienced by the things that you offer me when those people over there live the way they do?
Yeah.
And I live the way that I do here. Who am I to be inconvenienced by them offering me something,
Yeah. Yeah.
regardless of what it is?
Yeah.
So the whole point of all of this stuff that I've done for years, mentally preparing myself, because that's mostly where it's at,
Mhm.
is in the mind. So I think for me, this trip definitely reflected just how far I've come in that journey, and like reinforced that to let me know that it's working.
Yeah.
You know, it works, and it wasn't for nothing, because there's a lot of stuff we done in Africa that I did not say no to.
Yeah.
I just said yes to pretty much everything.
Mhm.
Things that I would usually say no, not just food and drinks, but like other stuff we done too.
Yeah.
So I think for me that's probably it there.
Mhm. Charla?
There were a few things, but one in particular was kind of um, highlighted in several aspects. But the only person that puts a limit on me is me.
Mhm.
And I know I say I do what I want a lot, and half the
Yes, you
time
do.
don't mean it. But like honestly, the only thing that limits me is me.
Yeah.
I First thing that kind of comes to mind is when we hiked up Lion's Head.
Mhm.
I felt horrendous
Yeah.
because I felt like I was slowing everybody down, because I have to combat with asthma.
Mm.
And as you climb in altitude, like, and I had mentally prepared myself for this. Like Zach and I watched videos of this hike, so I knew exactly what was going on and if I'd be able to do it or not.
Yeah.
So like the way it kind of showed it in the video, I was like, okay, that rock climbing part, the chains, the ladders, that's going to be the hard part. I'll be fine until I get there. The worst part was the beginning of the freaking hike, because this incline, I'm saying, like,
It's fierce.
it was intense. Like your calves were feeling it 5 steps in,
Yes.
and my lungs were feeling it from 2 steps in. You know what I'm saying? So like constantly having to like sit down because I'd get dizzy or lightheaded and nauseous and stuff. But like, and I know I had JJ in my ear, like life coaching it up.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
like I was also in my head, I didn't come here to quit. I didn't
Yeah.
come here to let them hike to the top and me have to hike back by myself.
Mm.
Not that they would have let that happen in the first place.
Yeah.
But like that was one physical aspect, and then the whole not being prepared for service and then suddenly having something. The
Yeah.
only person that was limiting me or making me anxious was me.
Mhm.
Abba knew that whole plan all from the start. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
think that was the most profound thing that kind of was re-highlighted to me.
Yeah. That's good. Kilby?
So mine would probably be just so that I understand, what was the question?
Oh, the question was, what did you learn about yourself in Africa?
Okay. So a lot like what Charla was saying about Lion's Head. I've never hiked a mountain before.
Hmm.
Sure, I've walked like paths on mountains before.
Yeah.
But I've never actually hiked from, which technically we weren't hiking from the bottom, but we were hiking. It's the only place you can start hiking this mountain.
Yeah.
And so, like, we were 3/4 of the way down the mountain, I would say, or at least 2/3. And so, hiking this mountain, it's one of those things where going into it, I'm like, okay, this is not going to be easy,
Yeah.
but I'm going to do this. And so, you start hiking, and like Charlie said, 5 steps in, your calves is feeling it.
Mhm.
Tyler looked at it and he's like, "You've walked like a quarter to a half a mile to where you start hiking. Where we parked the car just to the gate was like a quarter to a half a mile that we walked just to get there.
Mhm.
And then you start hiking. And this hike is not, the incline is not like it's up a little bit and then it flattens out and it's
Straight
no,
up.
it's the whole time
Yeah.
going around this mountain. It's this incline. Then it's like steps that they've used not timber, but like crossties,
Yeah.
sort of, to fill in with dirt
Mhm.
to do steps. Then it turns into rock steps.
Mhm.
Then a little bit later, then it turns into your ladders and chains and stuff like that that you have to hold on to so that you don't fall off the side of the mountain. And then you start like almost rock climbing, pretty much. You're like, it's steps
Yeah.
that they've like kind of cut out in the side of the mountain, but these steps is like waist and chest high that you're having to like climb up on top of.
Yeah.
And so, like, by the time we got to the part where it's climbing the rocks, you're so far up this mountain and you're starting to see out and see how high you've climbed and see how close you are,
Mhm.
that it becomes easier to obtain. And it's like your adrenaline just kicks in even more, if
Yeah.
that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just keep pushing
Mhm.
until you get there. And it seems like the actual rock climbing part of it is the easiest part,
Mhm.
knowing good and well it's not. But like getting on top of the mountain and realizing that this is the first mountain I've ever climbed, and it's not an easy mountain to climb.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a beginner mountain climber, you probably should not pick Lion's Head to climb.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Tyler made it look easy, but
yeah,
that was about it.
but hearing it's a lot like what Tyler was saying. Hearing JJ say we can hike Lion's Head.
Mhm.
I've not seen a picture of Lion's Head and been like, man, I want to climb that mountain.
Yeah.
But the way she said it is we can climb a mountain. We'll climb Lion's Head. So I hear climb a mountain. I'm like, I've never done that.
Yeah.
Me and Tyler were talking about it, and I was like, that sounds like that would actually be fun. Maybe we should do that. So we said yes to it.
Mhm.
Something we've never done.
Yeah.
Something that if I was in the state and someone was like, hey, y'all want to go climb a mountain in Tennessee? I'd be like, no. No, I do not. We can drive a car in the
Yeah.
mountains. But like just being in South Africa, it gives this wonder to it, if you will, of it's a mountain that you can climb. And JJ lays it out so beautifully, yet very accurately. She's like, this isn't going to be an easy mountain to climb, but
Mhm.
it'll be well worth it.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we climb it, and it's sunset, and it is very worth it.
Mhm.
But like that's just one thing of during the time, like saying yes to it, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go climb a mountain. During it, I'm sitting there
Why in
thinking,
the
why did I
world?
say this? I'm not gonna make it to the top.
Yeah.
What Charla doesn't know or didn't know was every time she's stopping and she's like, oh God, I feel terrible because I'm slowing the team down. I'm sitting there thinking, thank God Charla has stopped again so that I can take a break.
Yeah.
You stop yourself.
And
You put
so
it all on me.
I was like, man, her stopping, it's almost like it gives me permission to stop as well. And so I'm able to stop and take a break, and my calves can have like 3 seconds to rest before it's like, okay, here we go again. And so, like, climbing and actually reaching the top of Lion's Head was one thing that stood out to me. The other thing was something that JJ actually said when we were having lunch the last day we were there. and she was talking to all of us. She was talking about how she enjoyed watching the team operate and stuff. And then she was like giving each one of us encouragement, which is who she is,
Mhm.
even outside of being a life coach is who she is.
Yeah.
And so she said, she was talking about me specifically, and she said, there's something about when you're speaking. She said you can tell when you hit something,
Yeah.
and the Lord is telling you something, and you find a vein, and then you start flowing in it.
Mhm.
And she said, uh, don't neglect it.
Yeah.
To foster that, steward that. And then she was talking about the call will make room for you.
Mhm.
So like that stood out to me. Another thing was when her and Charla was talking about something that they've heard someone else say, and I will probably butcher it because I've yet to write it down. Yes. What?
So Rebecca Magookin, she does this Zoom call every Monday called Dwellers Daily. So I've been part of that for probably a year or so now. Actually, she started it during COVID. So what is that, 3 years now?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But she says, to become who you are, it'll cost you everything you were never meant to be.
That's good.
So we were talking about that, and then Kelby kind of caught hold of it. So I'll let him finish.
So like even that short little phrase, again, does it have anything to do with Africa? Not really,
Yeah.
because it was not said in Africa.
Yeah.
But if I did not go on this trip, I would not have heard this conversation.
Yep.
So it would have would I have eventually heard this saying?
Probably.
More than likely. Does it have as much would it have held as much value to me if it wouldn't have been said in the same conversation that JJ was sitting and encouraging each one of us? Probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
But being able to pair the two together and like really think about that and reflect on that is probably been one of the most probably been the most what's the word I'm looking for? It's what stood out the most, pretty much, to me.
So we're gonna jump to kind of a similar question, kind of sorta. It's another "What did you learn about?" question, but it's a little bit deeper because, as we all know, walking the Christian faith, you learn about God a lot, um, daily, really, if you're honestly being obedient. So, what did you learn about God while you were there, Zach? This is a deep and hard question to answer.
Yeah,
so-
that is a hard question. What did I learn about God? I guess because God is love and the people there are such an amazing example of love,
Mhm.
and they're such an amazing example of the love of God. I guess I learned more about God by spending more time with the people there, by spending more time with Pastor Brian and Pastor Glinda, Pastor Raymond, and Pastor Pam, even though I didn't see them. They are such an amazing example and representative of Christ
Mhm.
and what Christ looks like, and just the way they live, the way they love, the way they just give themselves up daily. They're just like a living sacrifice to God.
Yeah.
All the choices they make,
Mhm.
they just dedicate their whole lives to God. They dedicate every moment to just love you and receive you, help you, and just serve. And they're just so humble. And that that's probably what I learned more about God, as I learned about what the love of God is supposed to look like.
Mhm.
What a living sacrifice looks like,
Yeah.
is just by seeing the people there and seeing specifically the people in the ministry. It's just amazing. So.
Tyler? What'd you learn about God?
Um, I think probably kind of the same thing Zach's saying. Just seeing him a little bit different. Not that we don't see him here also.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
It's just the people are different.
Mhm.
The trees are different.
yeah.
Everything there is different. So why would he not be different there also?
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, he's the same God,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
same yesterday, today, and forever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He doesn't change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We just don't see him that way here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he's reflected in everything that is there.
Yeah.
He's reflected here the way that he's reflected here. But the reflection of who he is subject to who he's being reflected through and what he's being reflected through.
That expression.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good.
So it's not that he's a different God there. He's the same God. But when there's a people that are okay with him being him,
Yep.
they reflect him the way that he is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's not true here. People do.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people here that reflect him. The difference is you go somewhere like that and the society's different there.
Yeah.
People are different, life is different there. So they know and understand him in a different way.
Yep.
And it's evident in the way that they live and what they do and how they operate. And that is just harder to find here because a lot of times people are more concerned about reception than reflection. They're more concerned about what they can get through him rather than what they can show about him.
Yeah.
But there it's like it's different. They're not that those people don't walk to church every day so they can get something.
Yeah.
They walk to church every week, whatever. They walk there and put forth that effort because he is who he is, not because they get free stuff. Because
Yeah.
there's stuff there they don't get for free. They don't get everything just handed to them there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's ownership and understanding and what's the word? Golly. Daggone. Dang, I wish I'd remembered that. Everything's not just given to them.
Mm.
So there's a sense of understanding of owning something and it costing you something.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of people here don't understand
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people here that are given things for free.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't require them much or anything to get.
Yep.
I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that things cost them something, so they value it. It's an accountability, pretty much. They don't just throw stuff away.
Yeah, they steward it.
Yeah. And so they do the same thing with the Father. They don't just take him and then, it's Monday. We don't have to go back down there till Wednesday or Thursday or whenever
Yeah.
or next Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Nah, for them, it's every day.
Yeah.
And for some people here, it's every day, but not everybody.
Mm.
So I think seeing it just expressed in a different way, seeing the Father expressed in a different way is definitely something about him that I saw or learned a little bit different. And also accepting that for myself. So if you grow up in something and you're used to it, you're not going to question it.
Yep.
Really. But then if something else is made known to you, now you think about that even if you're not around it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so in everything that we saw and heard and were a part of there, it doesn't just stay there.
Yep.
Like somebody joked on the plane on our way there, what happens in Cape Town stays in Cape Town. And I mean they were being funny, but they weren't going to Cape Town for the same reason we were.
Yeah.
No.
So what happens in Cape Town does stay in Cape Town, but what happens to you while you're in Cape Town goes back with you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That part doesn't stay in Cape Town.
Yeah.
But you have to be receptive to it though. So when you go there and you're around all of that being receptive and all that it is, it the longer you're there, the more part of you that is going to be.
Mhm.
And if you're just open to it to start with, then it's going to be a bigger part of who you are moving forward. And I think that for me, that's what I learned about God, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to pause real quick. My camera or the recording setup's about to die, so we'll jump back in here in a second. All right, so had a little bit of technical difficulties. Batteries are kind of dying on everything because of how lengthy this is. But Charlotte, to continue with you, what did you learn about God while you were in Africa?
Um, so several things. I think the first thing I immediately think of is um just what the people portrayed, just like Tyler was saying, the expression,
Mhm.
very much honor and servanthood.
Yeah.
So, like when they were shoving donuts in our faces, it very immediately reminded me of the way Jesus washed the disciples' feet. And
Yeah.
it wasn't
Mm.
just in the, shoving donuts in our face,
Yeah.
but like the way Pastor Glinda would not take no for an answer. Like she cared for us
Yeah.
the way she cared for, I imagine, her daughters. You know what I'm saying? So like I walked in from my first full day of working on the mural. I'm sweaty, it's hot, I'm red in the face and have sunburn already on my legs because the sun is just pounding out
Yeah.
there. And I walk in and she's like, do we need to, like, we can hose you off. Like, you can come take a break whenever you need. Make sure you're drinking water. Make sure you have sunscreen. And I'm like, yes, ma'am, I'll make sure to take care. And she's like, don't make me come out there and be mama. I'll drag you in here and hose you off with this water hose myself. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. So, like, it was just a culture of honor and servanthood. And I couldn't help but think of the Father in
Mhm.
that sort of sense.
Kelby, how about you?
So Tyler and Charla touched on it a lot when they were talking about expression.
Mhm.
So you're asking this vast question of what did we learn about God? And God being this infinite being.
Yeah.
So an easy way that you could do this and like put this in a comprehensible level was if you would equate God to being an artist.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking about with one specific medium.
Yeah.
But an artist, an all-encompassing artist. And so they're talking about expression. So a painter is going to express himself completely different than a sculptor.
Yeah.
And so you have the way he expresses himself in America.
Mhm.
And then you have the way that he expresses himself in South Africa.
Yeah.
And so the way they live their life, yes, in the aspect of like ministry and kingdom stuff, but even the people that is just like in town, the way they live their life, the way that they reflect life in general. Like this one day, just this one instance, we were walking through town and there was this group of kids, it's a youth choir that's out there singing and dancing.
Mhm.
And like they're just out there singing and dancing for like money,
Yeah.
so to speak. They have a little bucket up there for you to put donations in. They're not out there trying to do anything major.
Yeah.
They're just out there sharing what they had, their capabilities, sharing that with whoever walks by. And so watching them and knowing like they're just dancing. So it's very easy to take this for granted
Mhm.
of okay, we saw some folks that was dancing in the city.
Yeah.
But watching the way they dance and watching like the way they move and flow with each other
Mhm.
and having this understanding of the Trinity being dancing, you can't help but to wonder if this is also somewhat of a reflection of the dance that they dance.
Yeah.
And so, like, anytime I see dancing, immediately I think of the Trinity dancing.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to say that one dance looks more like theirs than another.
Yeah.
And so these folks, they're not in a circle and they're not all arm in arm doing this choreographed dance, but they're out here dancing in a manner that's nothing short of what we would call worship.
Mhm.
Even though they're not out there dancing to the latest Hillsong, they're out there singing and dancing at the same time with Coke can lids on their ankles as shakers.
Yeah.
And like watching the way they move was very fluid, if you would want to describe it that way. And that's just one aspect of the way they live their life completely different than us.
Mhm.
But it's a reflection of who the Father is.
Yeah.
Because the Father is not one select group of people. He doesn't show himself in this group of people. It's not because we are Americans we reflect the Father.
Mhm.
But in everyone that you see has this reflection about them. And it's not because it's not saying that there's this like you see the Father in everyone you meet.
Mhm.
But the Bible does say that when you fed the poor, you fed me. And when you gave clothes to someone that was in need, you clothed me.
Mhm.
And so you can either choose to look at it as, okay, these are just individuals, or you can choose to look at it as the Lord is trying to show me himself in this.
Yeah.
And try and listen to what he's trying to teach you. And so in everyone that we saw, there's a small reflection of who he is.
Hmm.
And who is he? He's receptive. He's not a pick me.
Yeah. Yeah.
God is not up here saying, "Ooh, pick me. I've got a great religion for you."
Mhm.
No, he's a father that's standing at the end of the road with his arms wide open,
Yeah.
saying, "I'm here waiting for you to come home."
Yeah.
He's not pick me. He's please come choose me.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, and so it's he's receptive. In the trees that you look at, they're completely different, yet they're the same tree.
Yeah.
He's the same God, but he's completely different than we perceive him to be.
Mhm.
And so, my takeaway from who God is, he's not someone completely different, but he's completely different than who I thought he was,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's still the same today, same yesterday, today, and forever.
Yeah.
He hasn't changed, but my perception of who he actually is has changed.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's good. Zach, best memory from the trip.
Best memory. That's a hard one because there were so many good memories.
Mhm.
A funny one.
We do.
I loved, not to take away from the experience with the people
Mhm.
and Egoli and the community. I loved all of that, but I really liked Lion's Head. Like
Yeah.
I loved hiking up Lion's Head. That was probably my favorite hike I've ever been on. It was amazing. The views were amazing. I was worried about it because I didn't know if I was gonna. It looked intense on the video, so I didn't know if I was gonna have a meltdown or something or fall apart. But I was actually able to. I was actually able to get up there pretty relatively easy. So yeah, that was just an amazing experience. So that's probably up there close top memory. Also it was awesome teaching piano to the kids there. That was really cool.
Mhm.
And then yeah, just spending time with the people there is just really amazing.
Tyler, best memory.
I don't know that I could narrow it down to just one either.
Mhm.
Injustice.
Yeah, the whole trip is the best memory.
Mm. That's a good encapsulation there.
My God.
Well played.
What all happened?
We've done been over that. I think for me, probably the people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like Pastor Brian, Pastor Raymond.
Yep.
Working with Gabriel, I enjoyed all that. And the service, just being around them all.
Mhm.
And then definitely Lion's Head. I enjoyed that a lot also. And just being there. It's cool.
Charla, best memory?
Oh, there's so many. Um, I think less of a memory, but more of an experience, just the sense of wonder. Like
Mm.
I felt like I got to just explore and climb rocks and jump in the water to
Yeah.
go search for penguins. And I think there was such freedom in that I don't get as often as I would like. So I think that experience was probably top tier. And then of course the people, but I feel like we can't just keep saying the same thing over and over. So, yeah.
Kilby?
So for me, Zach paved the way with 3, so I can get at least 3. Obviously the people. That's a given. Being able to experience a new culture and people was amazing in itself.
Mhm.
For me, I love to observe people in their element. And so for me, I really enjoyed watching Zach teach piano
Mm.
because yes, we've known Zach for a really long time.
Mhm.
Never saw him teach
Yeah.
piano. Never really saw him teach anything.
Yeah.
And so when he's talking about he's not a good teacher, I disagree because he's a really good teacher. Not just at piano, but the way that he got the kids' attention,
Mhm.
held their attention. And like he sent me the curriculum he was going to go the lessons he was going to go over like a week before we left, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, there's no way this man is getting this much information into these kids
Yeah.
in 4 days. And then he goes into it and he ends up teaching these kids this information that he's lined up. And I was like, there's no way they're going to retain this information. And there was people that was playing like actual chords and remembering actual chords.
Mhm.
So like we say 4 days. It was an hour each lesson. He had 4 hours to teach them all of this information. And I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And he done it in such a way that they not only listened and comprehended, but retained the information. And like being able to sit back and watch Zach just do something that he's not necessarily confident in,
Mhm.
but like watching him be able to just take this and run with it, and watching how, even though he may not feel like it, how effortlessly it looked.
Yeah.
And then, like, in the same instance, watching JJ. JJ's from South Africa.
Mhm.
So to her, this is home.
Yeah.
So she's walking around her home.
Yeah.
And, like, watching her, I talked to Charla about this, watching JJ in town when we were, like, at markets and stuff. Like, you've got everybody at every tent and every booth, if you will, calling out like, hey, look at this, come over here and look at this. And so me not being around that ever, I'm like, just ignore them and they'll quit talking to you. And I'd done that for like 10 booths. And JJ, nah, she's acting like she's at a family reunion. She's like, hey auntie, hey uncle, oh that's beautiful. And like she's saying this as she's still walking.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get her to come in their booth so that she can look at all their stuff so that they can get her to buy something.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, not today, not today. And she keeps walking. And like, here I am ignoring these people. And then JJ's like the best thing to do is not ignore them because they'll think you're rude.
Mm.
So just acknowledge them, smile, and say, no, no, thank you, not today. And like these people, they would be like all but grabbing her and be like, look at this, look right here, look how beautiful. And like this woman's not just walking around saying, no, 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 I'm not gonna buy that. No, she's like, yes, that's beautiful. It's the way she done it is gentle and it's constructive at the same time.
Mhm.
So like she's complimenting their work. And it's a way that it was showing me that no's don't necessarily have to be a no, that's not happening. No, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not gonna purchase this. But actually compliment something and at the same time still standing firm on no. And like watching JJ in her element, which we said this about pastors Brian and Glenda, watching them in their element. We've seen them at the Sons Gathering, but seeing them there in their house ministering how they minister, it's completely different and it's super effective.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Quickly, because we're kind of running out of time a little bit here, but would you recommend this trip to anyone, Zach?
Yes, I would. Recommend it to everyone.
Tyler?
Yes.
Charlotte?
Yes.
Gilby?
1000%.
That's a yes around the board. All right. Will you go back again, Zach?
Yes, I will. This was my second time. My parents have been like 3 times already. They're planning to go back in April,
Mhm.
and I'll probably be going back next year.
Tyler?
Absolutely.
Charlotte?
100%.
Gilby?
Oh, I'm already there. Y'all just don't know it yet.
What plans do you guys have for your return? Anything specific, Zach?
Plans for the return? No, I don't think so. No plans specifically when I return. I guess I'll face that whenever the time comes.
Tyler, any plans?
Whatever they need when I get there.
Charlotte?
I'm down for just about anything.
Gilby?
Keeping those options open. Hopefully, I'm going in April.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So soon. All right. Well, final message. Is anything about the podcast that maybe you wanted to say and didn't get a chance to say, or something that we kind of went past quickly, and that you wanted to expand on? Anything that honestly you just want to bring up? This is kind of like the free time. You can go off the wall, or anything that you feel like you should get off your heart, Zach. If you want to lead off with that.
While we were there, I know JJ was talking about when we go over there, we want to be careful and sensitive to the culture. So we're not just going in there and trying to Americanize Africa.
Yeah.
I really like how JJ has the whole trip set up where you're not just going in there completely, or you're not going into Egoli specifically completely oblivious to the culture. She has it where you kind of prepare
Yeah.
for the ministering part. So you get to know the culture, you get to know the land, you get to know the history, so that you're not ignorant to the people and their experiences, that you're able to minister in a way that's effective, and that they can receive it. You're not just ignorant to what they've experienced, I guess. And I like how she explained how for a long time Westerners have come over and they think they're helping them by just giving them a handout,
Yeah.
but they're actually hurting them more and putting them into a deeper state of poverty.
Yeah.
And I like how JJ has set it up to not just go over there and give them a handout, but go over there and give them something that they don't have, or maybe teach them something that maybe we know that they don't know. And it's not even us like being the savior, it's we learn more from them than they learn from us, but
Yeah.
it's like an exchange, and we're not just going over there feeding them then leaving.
Yeah.
We're going over there planting a seed that's going to last a long time, and you're creating a long lasting impact. And yeah, I just really like how it's all set up and how you're not repeating the same mistakes that have been made in the past. I guess you're going over there sensitive to the culture and genuinely wanting to help them at the root of the issue and not just kind of superficial surface level kind of help.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's good. That's good. Tyler?
I think it was a very well put together trip. Like kind of like Zach was saying, um, JJ's lived there, so she understands way better than we do anything that would be there.
Yeah.
And that was something that I was talking about while we were there. Um, one of the other ladies was asking me about the trip and why we came and everything and how it had went up to that point. And I was telling her that I think JJ was the way that she set the trip up is probably the best way that you could set the trip up, because the things that she showed us, her point was, part of her point was to show you the contrast of
Yep.
like what's there, and then taking you into Egoli and showing you how those people live.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's important to know what you're going into. Like Zach was saying, the history and understanding of where you're at,
Yeah.
and like just the history of the place, the things that took place to get to where they're at, why Egoli's there.
Kind of like building a respect for it in a way.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we done some fun stuff those first few days. That stuff was fun, and for me, I know going into it, I was looking forward to the working part, like I was saying. Um, Not that I don't like having fun, but for me, I wanted it to be as productive as I could.
Yeah, I understand.
But there's you don't just run and jump into something and be productive. If you don't have an understanding of it, you're not going to be productive.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if it was flipped around and we went and done the work part first, it would have probably been harder. I wouldn't have had as much understanding of South Africa and the people there. But then at the same time, I probably wouldn't have wanted to leave. So like if we'd done the work part first, and then she was like, "We're gonna go do this stuff," I would have been like, "Can I just stay here and help them?"
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm here and I'm able, so why not stick around and help them instead of going and like seeing stuff and climbing Lion's Head and all that stuff? That wouldn't have felt productive to me had we done the work part first. But then at the same time, like Kelby was saying, there's a lot that we would have missed out on had we not done the part of the trip that we done first. And I think for me, had we not done it first, I probably wouldn't have been as receptive, because while we were doing all that stuff, the working part was on my mind.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we'd have tried to do the working part first, we probably would have had more of a resistance,
For sure.
because we really wouldn't have known anything.
Yeah.
Um, and also, then I definitely would have been thinking about, well, I could be back here doing this while we're here,
Yeah.
instead of climbing a mountain and looking at penguins and stuff. But I mean, all that stuff was fun though. I really enjoyed it. But yeah,
Charla, final message.
I think this is something I've been thinking about for a while now, and actually kind of was brought up again just thinking about your question. But I think it's really important that if you are a future traveler, or even just day to day as a believer in Christ, don't underestimate what you carry. Even if you're not walking into a church on Sunday to minister, or leading worship on Sunday or whatever, you carry Christ, you carry kingdom with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
So while we were looking at penguins, we carried kingdom. While we climbed Lion's Head and interacted with other climbers, we carried kingdom.
Yeah.
So it's not just not that shouldn't be compared to what we did in Egoli. It's two sides, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not that everything ministry has to be practical, and not that everything ministry has to be fun,
Yeah.
but I think that's I guess the whole point.
Kilby, final message.
Uh, a lot like what Tyler and Zach was talking about the way the trip's set up.
Mm.
We could go into the whole history and everything behind everything, but then you wouldn't have to go on the trip. And so it's not our place to come here, and I'm not saying come here as in the podcast, but come back to the States and share what we done.
Yep.
The reason that we're sharing is not so that you can say, "Oh, thank you for bringing this back. Now we don't have to go." No, it's supposed to
No.
spark
Yeah.
an interest within you and say, "That's what I'm supposed to do."
Mm-hmm.
And it's not saying that we're somebody because we actually said yes to go.
Yep.
We said yes to go, and then what we brought back, the stories and the experiences and stuff like that, should trigger you not necessarily to go to South Africa.
Yeah. But just go.
Go.
Say yes.
Yeah.
So the Great Commission is not go to your local church.
Yeah.
Mhm. Come on.
Great Commission is to go to the nations.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you have to go to Iran
Mm-hmm.
and preach the gospel. But if he tells you to go to Iran and preach the gospel, you better go.
Yeah. Be obedient.
And so a simple yes to going. You may think the trip looks like one thing. I know for me and Tyler, when we first said yes to go into South Africa, the trip looked like one thing. And then somewhere along the lines, the trip changed.
Yeah.
Not to something that we're not used to, but to, and it's not that it was catered for us.
Yeah.
But the trip changed to something that the Lord saw fit that we would be most productive in.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't change it.
Yeah.
All we done was say yes. And so a lot like what Charla was talking about with traveling, it's not even just for people traveling to other countries. Even saying yes to whatever God wants for you to do in the States.
Yeah.
You may physically not be able to travel to the nations.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what if he is asking you to say yes to help someone else go to the nations?
Mm. Yeah.
What if he's asking you to say yes to go into a prayer closet and intercede for not just one, but many people going to the nations?
Yeah.
And so everyone's yes looks completely different,
Absolutely.
but everyone's yes should point to one person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I may be saying yes to going to the nations, and someone else's yes may not look like going to the nations.
Mhm.
But at the same time, both yeses should point to Jesus.
Yeah.
And this trip, going to the nations, going to South Africa,
Mhm.
I know for me is just the first step into
Yeah.
going into multiple nations.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So going to South Africa is amazing, and the trip is amazing. The way JJ has it laid out is probably the best that anyone could sit down and plan out a trip.
Yeah.
Because she's showing us the contrast of the beauty of South Africa and the scenery of South Africa, and showing us these different experiences in South Africa.
Mhm.
And then slowly working in there the history of South Africa
Yep.
and the cultural differences of South Africa. And then you go to a service there in South Africa and you realize, okay, this is a little bit different. Next thing you know, you're then spending a week of doing an outreach program in Egoli in South Africa that would not have, yes, it would have meant something to you, but it would have meant nowhere near as much if you didn't spend that previous week
Mhm.
learning a completely different side of Africa.
Yeah.
And the way she said it was, you could come to South Africa and you could go to Just Egoli,
Mhm.
but you haven't seen South Africa.
Yeah.
You could come to South Africa and you could just do all the touristy stuff, but you haven't seen South Africa. Because it's not one or the other, but it's both.
Right.
Both are South Africa because both are realities.
Mhm.
And so the way she has the trip planned out, Tyler said it best when he was saying that if you had it backwards, if you would have flipped the 2 weeks around, none of us would have wanted to go see sights.
Yeah.
Because the entire time we would have hated it, because it would have been like we could be back there doing way more effective stuff,
Right.
but then we would have missed everything that we experienced and that shifted things inside of us personally. And so saying yes may not look like taking a trip somewhere, but even if you're supposed to take a trip and you're still not sure about saying yes, I love the episode you done with Miss Amanda. Your yes affects way more than just you.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're called to take a trip somewhere, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be out there on a street corner preaching somewhere in another nation.
Yeah.
Your yes could be to just go to that nation and observe,
Mhm.
and just you being there, shining a light,
Yep.
being the light of the world that you were called to be, could light a nation up.
Yeah.
Not by going and preaching and winning thousands of souls,
Mhm.
but being present in a nation.
Yeah.
And so your yes affects people.
Mhm.
If your yes is for the nations and you say no, your yes is not just affecting you, it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
You can carry on living your life,
Oh yeah.
but it's going to affect that nation.
Yep.
And so for me personally, the yes to this trip was a yes to Abba, to a call to the nations.
Yeah.
And so this trip means way more to me than just going to South Africa and going to build some homes and experience in South Africa.
Yeah.
It's taken a step. It's the first yes of many yeses.
Yeah.
And so to end it in my answer, we don't need to get to a place where we feel like that our past yes was enough.
Yeah. Come on with that.
Just because we said yes to something else yesterday
Mm-hmm. It's daily.
doesn't mean we don't need to say yes again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because he's looking for people that will say yes to everything that he has for them.
Yeah.
And even though saying yes sometimes means we have to give, like we have said just about this entire time, when you give, you're receiving something as well.
Mhm.
Most of the time, more than you give.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when you're saying no to going and giving something, you're also saying no to receiving something.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think can I cap it off with my final message? I thought that this whole kind of podcast, usually here Holy Spirit has a way of making it revolve around a theme. And I feel like the big theme that almost stuck out a lot to me was the obedience in the yes, like you're saying, is if none of y'all say yes, none of this happens, right? The whole podcast doesn't happen, maybe way down the line sometime, but it wouldn't happen in now in this moment and have the impact that it's going to have. And so I want to say I just appreciate you guys being obedient and you guys saying yes, because you guys saying yes has that effect like Kelby was just talking about. It's this huge ripple effect, not only in South Africa but here as well. But appreciate you guys who tuned in. You have something to say real quick?
So I think we have one last thing to say.
Should we advertise Life Change real quick?
Oh yeah, I was going to do that here in a second, but
Okay.
you could go ahead if you guys want to plug it. Go, because you guys experienced it. It'd be way more beneficial if you guys did it for sure. Kelby, would you like to plug, or Zach?
Plug it. You can plug it.
Go ahead.
I know the least about it.
Oh man.
So Life Change Travel is on Facebook,
Mhm.
Instagram,
Yeah.
hopefully one day YouTube. We don't know. But that is how we went this trip to South Africa
Mhm.
through JJ, which
Right.
is the owner, operator, CEO. I don't know what you would call her,
Does all work.
but she is the one over Life Change Travel.
Mhm.
And so she is the person that led us in all of the stuff we done. And I don't think any of the four of us could have asked for a better person
Yeah.
to lead us in whatever we done while we were there. So if you're out there and you want to take a trip to South Africa,
Mhm.
definitely look up JJ
Yeah.
on Facebook or Instagram under Life Change Travel, and you can find her information there and book a trip.
Mhm.
Do
And
it sooner than later.
yeah, from the way it sounds, it's going to be well worth it. So highly recommended. You guys all give 5 stars. It sounds like
Yes.
5 stars across the board. So you guys heard it here first. If you're looking for that type of trip, just go visit JJ at Life Change Travel. And appreciate you guys watching with us and staying with us. If you're watching on YouTube, unfortunately, we had a bunch of technical difficulties. This is my first mass production, if you will. So a little under prepared for some of the things, but you'll at least get to hear our voices for the most part of it. And I think we got most of it on the camera, but just this part 3 was a little bit rougher on the video side of things. But for those of you who listen on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere like that, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. You can find the podcast under the Pursuit of Veracity on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube as well. So go give us a follow over there. But I appreciate you guys coming in. I think this was good. I hope I did a half decent job at kind of capturing the story. I did the best that I could. And it was definitely interesting doing a 3-part series like this and spread it out and talking with you guys and trying to catch every detail. And it's definitely even sparked that fire in me even more to go. So I can't wait to sit down and talk about my trip one day. But appreciate you guys and appreciate all you guys listening. And we'll catch you next time.